We're coming on the air with breaking news out of the January 6th committee, with NBC News learning that primetime presentation on Thursday is being pushed back, but no word as to why. What we're now learning about a potential new witness, Steve Bannon, as he gets set for a contempt trial. Plus, today, the number of the day at the White House is 64. That's the percentage of Americans who back President Biden's gun law. It's also the percent of Democrats who want him not to run again in 2024. We break down these new polling woes. And with this massive heat wave, you might want to take a dip in the lake this summer, but not if there's a brain-eating amoeba in it. Our doctor's here to break down this wild case in Iowa and how we can stay safe in the water. Plus, in our backstory, we go behind the scenes on an NBC News exclusive on why foster kids and advocates in Michigan say the state's not giving them a quality education. And in tonight's original, we take you to a vertical farm. It's designed to save water, but is it really better for the environment? We'll dig into that later in the show. Hey there, I'm Stephanie in for Hallie, and we're just now learning that Steve Bannon's criminal contempt of Congress trial will happen as planned, with a judge ruling in the last couple of hours that they're not going to push it back just because Bannon's now saying he's willing to testify. And this is the big question for the January 6th committee. What does Bannon want to say? It's a pretty remarkable about-face, given that Bannon, the longtime advisor to former President Trump, has basically told the committee to get lost for months. And not so coincidentally, Bannon's offer came just a week ahead of when the jury's getting selected for that trial. It's all changing because letters NBC News has show Mr. Trump's waiving his executive privilege claims, opening the door for Bannon's offer to publicly testify. But the Justice Department says it's an 11th hour effort. A stunt, actually. Just as we're now learning from a filing by the former president's lawyer that Trump never actually invoked executive privilege based on when it came to Bannon's subpoena. Bannon's the former president's longtime advisor, and the committee's likely to ask him about what they believe was a call to violence by Mr. Trump to groups like the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys, encouraging them to storm the Capitol. And tomorrow's hearing will focus on just that, featuring the testimony of an ex-Oath Keeper who left the group back in 2017, but says he can talk broadly about how the group operates and about its leader, Stewart Rhodes, who is facing trial because of seditious conspiracy charges. Scott Wong is on Capitol Hill. And Scott, we'll talk about Bannon in a second, but first to this breaking news that Thursday's primetime hearing is postponed. Do we have any inkling as to why?
The committee is not really explaining why it is postponing Thursday's hearing, but I think there are a number of facts that we do know. We do know that Pat Cipollone on Friday sat down in a closed-doors testimony with the committee for more than 8 hours, obviously providing loads of information. The committee says confirming some information from previous testimony, as well as not contradicting Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony before the committee. And so there have been a number of developments, including, as you mentioned, offers of testimony by Stewart Rhodes and Steve Bannon in recent hours. All of these developments contributing, of course, to the committee, which is saying, look, we're not in any rush here. We're going to follow the facts where they lead us. And if that means delaying hearings or holding hearings later in the year, then so be it. They are keeping all of their options open, not closing the door on anything at the moment.
Yeah, and taking time that it sounds like they may need. So now the committee has this offer from Bannon to testify publicly. Is that something we anticipate they'll take him up on?
What we heard from committee aides just a short while ago on a conference call is that they would like to hear from Steve Bannon. They have been wanting to hear from Steve Bannon for the better part of a year now. He has resisted those attempts. He has resisted a formal subpoena. And so we are in the situation where we now find ourselves with Steve Bannon preparing to head into a trial for contempt of Congress. But what the committee and committee aides have said is that, they would like to hear from him on on their terms. Steve Bannon wants this to be a public testimony that is not likely to fly with the committee. They wanted to take him behind closed doors and question him in a closed door setting. And so there are a lot of negotiations that would have to happen. That's not saying that this will not happen. Right now, it's still an open question whether they can reach some sort of an agreement on testimony for Steve Bannon.
Well, Mr. Bannon can sometimes be quite a live wire, that's for sure. And looking ahead to tomorrow, the former Oath Keeper we're going to hear from is planning to talk broadly about how the group got radicalized. What else do we expect to hear? Could we get some info out of Friday's closed doors interview with former White House counsel Pat Cipollone?
It's entirely possible. The committee is not saying explicitly that we will hear some of that videotape testimony from Cipollone, but they do have it, as I mentioned before, 8 hours of testimony. That is a real possibility. What the committee aides are saying today is that they are really going to explore this connection between these right-wing extremist groups like the Oath Keepers, like the Proud Boys, and their connections to key people in the Trump orbit, including Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, individuals like that were at the center of this plot to try to overturn the election, that plotted this idea with the president himself. They are driving home the point that these right-wing leaders, many of them have been already charged with seditious conspiracy. That's something we are going to hear over and over at Tuesday's hearing tomorrow.
All right, we'll certainly be watching. Scott Long on Capitol Hill, thank you very much. Let's go to the White House, where today President Biden is standing side by side with people impacted by gun violence, both survivors and victims' families, as he touts Washington's first major gun control law in more than 30 years.
The provision of this new legislation is going to save lives, and it's proof that today's politics, we can come together on a bipartisan basis to get important things done, even on an issue as tough as guns.
As a reminder, this is some of what this law will do: enhance background checks, close the so-called boyfriend loophole, and more money for mental health and school safety. It does not include an assault weapons ban, which the president says he wants. Still, 64% of Americans support this new law, according to a new Pew poll. But 64 is also the percent of Democrats, not all Americans, just Democrats, who in a New York Times survey say they don't want this president to be their party's nominee in 2024. Maura Barrett is outside the White House. You know, Maura, numbers like this from an incumbent are rare, even maybe unprecedented, right? I mean, it's even worse among young people, but we're now learning the White House isn't all that worried. How could that be the case?
Yeah, really worrisome numbers, right, Stephanie? But the thing is I would be surprised if the White House was going to express public concern, right? Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, just addressed this kind of in her press conference this afternoon, saying that though they saw the polling, they know that polls are going to go up, they're going to go down. But she did acknowledge that the president still has a lot of work to do when it comes to that bipartisan gun legislation, when it comes to inflation, gas prices, all the things that everyday Americans are looking at. And so they're projecting as if the president is going to continue to do the work. So presumably his polling numbers can come back up. But also, I should note, his approval rating sits at just 33% right now. Now, behind the scenes, as we are already talking about 2024, thinking about President Biden running again, expressing so, pitching himself to Democrats, a Biden advisor tells NBC and points us towards that same poll, also indicating that when you put Biden and potentially former President Trump up against each other again, Biden still comes out on top. And so that's something that the behind the scenes they're holding on to.
You know, I noticed those numbers, not by a lot. He's not on top, right? It's just a few percentage points, right?
Exactly.
Right. You know, I want to talk a little bit about this event today. There was a moment when Manuel Oliver, whose son died in the Parkland shooting, was not happy that the president said this law was proof that Congress can get something done on guns. Watch this.
You have to do more than that.
Make no mistake. Sit down and hear what I have to say.
You have to do more than that. You have to open an office in the White House. Name a director. Prioritize these problems.
you.
Let him talk. Let him talk.
So it's a little tough to hear what he's saying there, but the overall message, right, is that today should not be a celebration. Why?
Well, that's exactly what Oliver and his spokesperson told us. Basically, we learned from the press secretary also that Oliver and the president had met shortly before this event. But basically, he's a father of a victim of the Parkland shooting. And he was worried that a celebration like this sends the message to Republicans that they got away with doing, quote, something, and then are able to ignore it when it comes down the road inevitably yet again. And so he wanted to push the president to do more, which is what we did see the president very passionately express at the White House event today. In addition to pushing for an assault weapons ban, he also wants to see safe storage laws and expansion on those background checks. But what's interesting is Kamala Harris congratulated Biden on this legislation. But it's important to note Congress did a lot of this negotiating, and President Biden stayed very far away from it. McConnell even saying that he had not talked to Biden when they were in negotiations. So if the president's going to be pushing for more of these developments, more of these changes, it'll be interesting to watch if he decides to get himself involved with lawmakers.
Yeah, obviously getting a little bit pressure today to do just that. All right, Maura Barrett, thank you. We'll come back to you a little bit later in the show to talk about these new pictures we're getting from space, which will be pretty cool, so stick around. Today, we're going to turn now to these wildfires, which you may have seen out of Yosemite. Firefighters are battling that fire there, doing everything they can, racing to contain the Washburn wildfire after it more than doubled in size this weekend. Over 500 sequoias are at risk right now, those beautiful trees out there. So firefighters are putting in sprinklers, removing fuel from around the trees, airdropping fire retardant to slow the spread. And as we speak, this fire is 25% contained, but forest officials have said that light wind plus high temperatures mean it's likely to keep growing. Some trees are damaged, but so far, thankfully, nothing critical. Crews are also paying special attention to one special tree called the grizzly giant. It's the second tallest sequoia in the grove at over 200 feet, and firefighters are making sure sprinklers hit the area around its base to protect it as much as possible. Cal Perry joins me now with more. Cal, some incredible pictures coming out of there. We know that campers and people who live in the area have already been evacuated. What are you seeing there today?
So, look, we're seeing a focus on, as you said, these sequoia trees now that folks have gotten out of the area. That was obviously the priority for officials, is to get anybody who was here out of the area. Now, again, it is about those very beautiful trees, this natural wonder, and keeping them protected. So firefighters are doing exactly what you're talking about, clearing out that brush, lighting these back blazes. Behind me is where there was a back blaze that was lit overnight. They're basically playing defense, right, on this very fast-moving fire, and they're trying to set up entire areas of protections so that these groves remain untouched. And so far, they've had some luck, Stephanie.
Cal, there are also serious safety hazards for these firefighters, right? They're walking on unstable ground, watching out for falling trees. It's incredibly hazardous. How tough is their job right now?
We've been watching them all day. And Carlos, if you want to try to show a little bit of what we've been watching this hill and this backburn on this hill. And the danger is so incredible. And you can see it up close, because what happens is some of these trees, they fall down, and these trees burn, some of them from the inside. And so firefighters think that a tree is alive, and then it comes crashing down on them. It is one of many dangers that they face. The other thing is, of course, climate change is warming this part of the country faster than any other part of the country. These fires burn longer, they burn hotter, they now burn year-round. So for firefighters, it's no longer a season, it's an all-year-round job, and it is only becoming more dangerous, Stephanie.
Dangerous, and eventually, over the course of the season, exhausting for these poor guys. And Cal, these sequoia trees they're such a unique part of the country. I mean, for anyone who's been out there, they are something to behold in person. They're only native to this region, thousands of years old. We're losing such history there, aren't we?
Yeah, and this is the hottest climate that these trees have seen in their lifetime. which is scary when you look at it from that perspective. And these trees, when you look at sort of what they call a negative feedback loop, these trees take carbon out of the air, right? So not only is this a climate story at its face because the planet is heating and this part of the country is heating faster, but these trees, not only are they a natural wonder, not only do they attract, of course, visitors from all over the world, and we should say in the months of July and August, more than 1 million people come through these gates. These gates have been closed for 4 days. But we're losing a part of our history, we're losing a part of our nature, and we're losing something that actually is taking carbon out of the air, Stephanie.
Well, we tip our hat to those firefighters and hope they can save the day. Cal Perry, thank you so much. All right, let's turn to Bill Cairns. He's here with me to talk weather and this extreme weather that's sweeping across the country. Tell me about it. It's hot. It's hot here today.
It was 110 in Austin this weekend.
We're not in Austin. But that is hot.
It's usually hot in Austin, but that's like Phoenix hot. I mean, that was crazy. Yeah. So obviously we still have this major heat wave that we've been dealing with out there. It still encompasses much of Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. Once again this afternoon, feeling like 110 to 120 if you factor in the heat indices. And now we've gotten areas of the west into it again. Yosemite, by the way, is not under a red flag warning. We're not dealing with Santa Ana winds or anything like that. It's just been so dry that the fire still spreads pretty quickly, even without the gusty winds or extreme heat. So how hot is it and who's the hottest right now? As you'd expect, Phoenix at 113. But look at Del Rio, Texas, 107 degrees right now. Texas is in an extraordinary drought that has moved in quickly over the last year. I mean, it is like desert-like conditions. It's not the humid Texas. You get that more from Houston towards the Gulf, but central Texas and West Texas, it's just dry as could be. So as far as what we're going to deal with tomorrow, more of the same. The black number is the actual high of 104 in Dallas. Won't be quite as humid. That's why the heat index isn't that horrible. Notice the highest heat indexes typically in Florida and Jackson, Mississippi, Houston 107, Corpus Christi, that's ugly. It'll feel like 112 tomorrow afternoon. And you get the idea. We're 90s in the Northeast all the way to Salt Lake City at 104. Salt Lake City, a place you think of for 104 degrees. And so it has no relief in sight either as we head towards Wednesday through Friday. Dallas, 100s across the board. Same for you in San Antonio. This could easily go down as the warmest month you've ever had in San Antonio. Same for Salt Lake City. Albuquerque still warm in Phoenix, too. And we were showing you where Perry's located there with the fire. And you can see the smoke plume blowing off the fire. And so there's a lot of poor air quality out there. And by the way, there's 545 firefighters already on this blaze. It only formed 3 days ago. As far as severe weather goes, not too much today. We have some storms in Wisconsin. We may get a few strong storms in Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio later today. But a heads up tomorrow in the Northeast. Cold front's going to go through in the afternoon. Most likely if you're traveling the airports, especially the early evening, is when we'll have some of the strongest storms from Albany, possibly Philadelphia, D.C., and also into New York. So obviously 17 million people in the Northeast have a chance of seeing some of those strong storms. And here's the timing on it. 7 a.m., some storms in the Adirondacks. And then we watch a few storms pop up around D.C., Philly, and also for our friends in Virginia, Stephanie. So a little bit of everything across the maps.
Yeah.
But I think the heat and the drought, it's just going on and on.
But those early evening storms does not bode well for anyone trying to get on a plane. That's the worst
do you have a plane
possible
tomorrow?
time.
Do you have a
No,
plane?
I do not.
You're
thankfully,
okay.
not so far. You know, that can change on a dime.
Yes.
But for now, I'm clear.
All right, good for you.
Thank you very much, Bill Cairns. Let's turn now to the FDA, who's facing an intense political spotlight again because for the first time ever, a company has submitted an application for an over-the-counter birth control pill. A French drug maker, HRA Pharma, says it's got tons of research to show that women can safely use Opal without a prescription. The timing of this application comes amid legal and political battles over women's reproductive health, such as abortion. HRA Pharma says this application is unrelated to the Supreme Court's overturning of Roe v. Wade. The company says it just wants to make birth control more accessible. Meanwhile, Democratic lawmakers are calling on the FDA to quickly consider the application. The Biden administration doesn't plan to put pressure on the agency, but President Biden says he's considering declaring a, quote, public health emergency to free up federal resources to support abortion access. Let's bring in Dr. Kavita Patel. Dr. Patel, it's nice to see you. You know, safety considerations are likely to be the most important issue here when it comes to this approval. HRA says it spent 7 years conducting FDA-required studies. What are the likely sticking points, and how long could this take?
Yeah, Stephanie, in order to understand the sticking points, it's important to point out kind of what's happening. They're really trying to ask for something that's available by prescription today and switch it over to an over-the-counter. This has been done with very popular medications that we've had for allergies, for heartburn, and for chronic joint pain like Tylenol. So what they have to do to demonstrate that safety and efficacy is all the trials that they needed to get that original FDA authorization or application approved for the prescription pill. But then on top of that, they need to demonstrate that consumers can safely use it and not abuse it and can understand how to self-diagnose, because if you're coming forward to buy it, you're not getting the consultation of a provider. And then finally, they have to have labeling that people can easily understand. So there's a number of these safety hurdles that they surely have considered. And they usually, when these things happen, Stephanie, they're in conversations with the agency in an ongoing basis. And so I would imagine that they've checked a lot of those boxes in order to be public about this application.
Well, that kind of leads to my next question, because if those are the considerations, are they looking especially at minors as well, whether there should be some restrictions based on age? You know, the CDC says that currently 14% of American women ages 15 to 49 are using the pill. Do you think the FDA authorization will expand that access?
I think this is where the science, especially the studies that the pharmaceutical company is no doubt bringing forward, that the FDA is reviewing, will look exactly at that. And just, Stephanie, to go back in our Wayback Machine, in 2011, this exact issue came up with Plan B, which is available over the counter to prevent pregnancies. And at the time, there had been a back and forth. The FDA declared that it was safe. President Obama, in a very unusual ruling, actually asked to have that overturned. That didn't hold up in courts, and thus it is available to minors. So I do think that that data will come forward, and it likely will support the use, safe use of over-the-counter contraceptives. But I think you're asking, I think, also the important question about counseling. And I think all women probably would love to have anybody taking contraceptions. All persons would probably like to have some of that labeling be very clear so that they can make their own decisions.
You know, I wonder, too, because birth control pills are available in lots of different parts of the world already over the counter, like South America, Asia, Africa. Right. Why is it such a big deal in the U.S.? What's getting in the way?
Yeah, I think originally a couple of decades ago, it's been an ongoing issue where people, I remember working on this 15 years ago, people have been wanting over-the-counter birth control. It's kind of gone through its fits and spurts. The real roadblocks had been around, actually, ironically, access, that if we have all birth control available over the counter, Stephanie, then that adds to the consumer having to pay out of pocket. And that out of pocket cost could really be troubling, because we don't know how much these are going to be available for, potentially. The pharma company hasn't said so. But it could be a real hindrance if the only thing available is over the counter and it's too expensive to buy. Actually, that led to the Affordable Care Act mandating coverage for oral contraceptives to avoid those out-of-pocket costs. And then there were a lot of issues about whether or not this could be safely used without the consultation of a healthcare provider. But the good news is time has moved on, and I think that the education that's available for a consumer to make that decision, a woman, man, anybody, however they identify, that is available now, much more accessible than it was even 2 years ago. And I think that will be the difference.
All right, Dr. Patel, thank you so much. And coming up, a Real Housewives star potentially facing real time behind bars, but she pleaded guilty today. Plus, a pregnant woman in Texas says she had a baby on board, so she shouldn't get a ticket for driving in the HOV lane. That's one of our 5 things. We'll be right back. And just as we're coming on the air, Twitter clapping back at a letter sent by Elon Musk's attorney, saying the company did not breach any obligations under their agreement after Musk's lawyer claimed Twitter had not given his client the information he requested about the number of fake and spam accounts on the platform. Earlier today, Musk trolled Twitter on Twitter, posting this meme and mocking management after the chair of the company's board said it will pursue legal action to enforce the agreement. It comes as Twitter shares fell over 11% today, erasing more than $3 billion off the company's market value. Last week, Musk said he's backing out of his $44 billion deal to buy the company. Joining me now is Jolene Kent. Joe, Twitter stock plummeted today. Its overall value really sinking. Give us the big picture about the impact this could have on the company.
Yeah, so the most important thing to look at here, Steph, is that the bigger picture for tech is all big tech companies are down. If you've been following the NASDAQ, you're looking at Meta, a bunch of the social media companies, Snap, all down. And so when we see Twitter falling in value, especially leading up to today, it's not all that surprising. It's Elon Musk who's probably feeling not so good about it since he offered, $54.20 a share back in April. So the share price has declined now, about 30-ish% since that time. And so Elon Musk wants to make this about the bots. He says that, not enough information has been disclosed to him about how many actual real versus automated accounts there are. But when you look at the actual picture of this and the money that he would be overpaying with, that really seems to be the crux of the issue. And so Twitter is pursuing this in Delaware court, where, they're very much experienced in corporate law and contracts of this kind. And the letter that just came out via the SEC is from that very powerful law firm Wachtell Lipton, which was retained by Twitter. And they're arguing that Musk's purported termination is invalid and wrongful, and that Musk has knowingly, intentionally, willfully, and materially breached the agreement. So as for what can happen from here, a lot of different things. We have reported since the very beginning this was never a done deal, and Musk could pay a $1 billion separation agreement if it doesn't work out. He could end up being forced to buy the company for $44 billion. They could also just come to some kind of settlement. There's about 7, 8, 9 different ways that this could go going forward, Steph.
Joe, bottom line, even a billionaire feels the sting when he has to overpay for something. And it certainly does sound in that context that he might be open for a different deal. And Twitter getting dragged through the mud a bit might be open for that, too, right? I mean, that's where we're going, potentially.
Yeah, there is some discussion among the Twitter elite, a lot of the OGs who've been involved in Twitter since its founding, saying, maybe one school of thought here is you just let this go and let this deal go. But Twitter, is a struggling tech company, though very, popular and very successful by a lot of metrics. There's a lot that Twitter wants to do in the future. So we'll see how this all impacts, the future of Twitter. But certainly the drama that you've seen from Elon Musk and the town halls and the statements he's made about Twitter are very unsettling for a lot of the employees that I've spoken to inside the company. And so when you have this kind of leadership as possible ownership, that may impede some of the innovation or change the direction of the company, obviously. So a lot remains to be seen here. I hate using that phrase, but that's very much the case with Elon Musk, because as we've been reporting, sorry, we have some noise here, as we've been reporting since the very beginning, this deal was never done. It was announced, the intention was there, and then a bunch of stuff happened on Wall Street that did not make Elon Musk very happy.
No, for sure. And it sounds like there are some Twitter employees who are worried he's going to come in and blow things up. That's definitely a possibility. All right, Jillian Ken, thank you so much.
Thanks, Steph.
Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, mourners paying their respects to former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe at a wake today. He was assassinated last week. The man police say murdered him reportedly believed Abe had promoted a religious group and that his mother had made a, quote, huge donation to it. Today, the Unification Church said the suspect's mom is one of its members. The suspect himself isn't. The head of the church's Japan branch declined to comment on the mother's alleged donations, citing the police investigation. And number 2, Sri Lanka's president and prime minister say they'll resign after people there broke into their official residences. Look at this video from over the weekend. Look at them in the pool and seized their government buildings. You can see the protesters were swimming in the pool, but they're there really because they're demonstrating over the country's economic crisis that's left many without food or fuel. And number 3, Abbott says its baby formula factory in Michigan is back in business. Again, it's the plant that closed in February because of contamination. It reopened June 4th, but shut down another time later that month because of storm damage. An Abbott spokesperson says it started production back up on July 1st. And number 4, a pregnant Texas woman who reportedly got a ticket for driving in an HOV lane says her unborn baby should count as a second passenger. She's basing that on Texas penal code that recognizes an unborn child as a person. The woman said when she told the officer that, he said the rule applies to people outside the body. Reps for the Sheriff's Department and the State Transportation Department didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. And number 5. Real Housewives of Salt Lake City star Jen Shaw pleaded guilty to wire fraud today. She'd been accused of running a nationwide telemarketing scheme targeting seniors. Shaw agreed to pay millions in restitution and faces up to 14 years in prison. There is some alarming news in Iowa just a few weeks into summer. Officials have had to shut down a lake after a person was infected with a brain-eating amoeba. That person is now in the intensive care unit after swimming in a lake of 3 fires in Taylor County. The CDC and local officials there are testing the water to confirm the presence of the brain-eating infection. The process could take several days. These cases are extremely rare. Only 154 known cases have been identified here in the U.S. since 1962. That's not a lot, but they're terrifying for millions of families who like to enjoy fresh, warm water, such as lakes, rivers, and hot springs, especially in the summer. Let's bring in Dr. John Torres. Dr. Torres, a brain-eating amoeba can kill a person within a matter of days or weeks. That's terrifying. What do we do about this case in Iowa?
So what we know about it is he was from Missouri. He went to Iowa. He went to this lake, which is a warm water lake, and that's where this amoeba, which is essentially a microscopic parasite called Naegleria fowleri, that's where it lives. And it's pretty ubiquitous in these warm waters. What doesn't happen, though, is it typically doesn't get into people's bodies. Like you mentioned, 154 since 1962, so it's very rare, but it also has a very high mortality rate, and so that's why it's concerning. And once somebody has this, especially once they start showing symptoms, it's extremely difficult to treat, and for most of them, unfortunately, it proves to be fatal. And so we know he went there. We know they are now looking at the lake to see if that is where it comes from and if that's a problem. That's why they shut it down. But they're also looking at, in Missouri itself, some of the water sources this person might have been around and making sure that those don't have it as well, because we know it can be in a variety of water sources. So they're just being extremely careful because we know this is happening. We know it tends to be happening more than it did in the past. And so they're just keeping an eye on everybody, Stephanie.
All right. Well, how long does it take symptoms to show up, and what should people be on the lookout for?
So symptoms show up between 1 and 9 days. It's very quickly, and the symptoms are very harsh. People typically get severe headaches. They get nausea. They get vomiting. They can get a stiff neck. It's a type of meningitis, basically, and encephalitis. So they get a swelling of the brain as well. They can get photophobic, which means that the lights are they're very sensitive to lights as well. And then they can have seizures and progress beyond that. And what we're finding out is in cases like this, and here's what happens is essentially as they get in the water, if they get in a rapid fashion and the water goes up their nose, it can get into the nose lining and then get up into the brain. And so that's why the big caution is to make sure if you do go to some of these warm water lakes that you don't get your head below the water, or if you do, that you gently get into the water. You don't go jumping into the water, because that can cause a problem.
All right. Well, earlier we mentioned these cases are rare, and they're usually found in lakes and in rivers. But in the past 2 years, 2 kids have died from being infected on a splash pad. Explain how that could happen.
So it's happened on splash pads. We had a gentleman in Louisiana that got it from tap water when he was rinsing his sinuses out using regular warm tap water. And unfortunately, what happens in situations like this, if it's municipal water and it wasn't treated appropriately, especially with chlorine to kill this amoeba, it can be in the water sources itself. And so that's why they're very careful with this. The problem is, like they're doing in Iowa right now, testing does take a little bit of time. So the caution for most people is, if you are looking at warm water environments, and we know this seems to be moving further and further north, and so we want to make sure that as these waters warm up because of climate issues, that these warm waters don't have this amoeba. If they do, people are cautious about it. Again, don't jump in the water without a nose plug or holding your nose itself so the water doesn't get up in there. Don't get your head below the water line. That way it won't get into your nasal passages, and then you won't have an issue with that. But like I mentioned, it's a severe disease, but it's still a rare disease.
All right. Well, that's some good advice there. Dr. John Torres, thank you so much. And still to come, growing food outdoors can be hard and could be getting harder with climate change. Some people are growing food inside and say they're using way less water. But does that mean it's better for the environment? We're taking a closer look in our original tonight. Officials in Nevada say they found a couple secretly living with their kids and a bunch of weapons inside a children's museum. What police say they found later in the local. But first, now we want to bring you today's original with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been keeping an eye on. You heard us earlier in the show talk about extreme heat being felt across the country. Extreme weather is becoming more common and is impacting the way we farm. When we think of growing fruits and vegetables, many think of a big outdoor field, but some businesses are starting to grow crops indoors with no sunlight. It's called vertical farming. Vertical farms save huge amounts of water and can be set up in places where you don't usually find farms, like cities. But it's not a perfect solution. These vertical farms use a lot of energy. NBC's Isa Gutierrez has more.
Can I get more of this one? It tastes very fresh. It's just crazy to think that these have never seen sunlight.
According to Guinness World Records, this is the largest indoor vertical farm in the world.
These leafy greens, some of over 40 million plants being grown right now inside this Aero Farms facility in Newark, New Jersey.
Vertical farms are spaces where plants are stacked in warehouse-like shelves, and farmers can control the lighting, temperature, and water. And for some crops, vertical farms can yield 10 to 20 times more food per acre compared to traditional outdoor farming.
So tell me what you're growing in here right now.
This has been optimized to grow baby leafy greens, microgreens. We grow, dozens of different varieties.
Mark Oshima is the co-founder of Aero Farms, a company that says its indoor vertical farms are growing some of your favorite types of veggies while using 95% less water than a traditional outdoor farm.
This is reimagining and how do we address those key, fundamentals and think differently about the farm work that we're doing.
In an era of extreme weather, supply chain issues, and an economy grappling with inflation, growing food outdoors is difficult. In recent years, indoor farms have been trying to mitigate the risks of farming while easing the strain traditional farming has on the planet, all while still turning a profit. But as the industry grows, so does criticism that some of these indoor vertical farms might be overstating their sustainability promises.
Turns out of all the ways we grow food in the world, indoor vertical farms is the most energy intensive and right now emits the most greenhouse gases because it depends on heat, usually natural gas, and on electricity, which is powered mostly by coal or natural gas.
According to the 2021 Global CEA Census Report, indoor vertical farms use more than 7 times more energy than greenhouses. And according to another study, vertical farms can use about 3,000% more energy than traditional farms to produce the same amount of food, due in large part to LED lights that can stay on anywhere from 12 to 18 hours a day.
Until the entire electrical grid of the country or the planet is 100% carbon free, anything that adds more electricity demands to the system is not helping.
One of the census report's co-authors says despite this, he remains excited about the technology.
We're seeing more vertical farms that are buying renewable energy, which is a good starting point. But it's hard for me to see how the energy demand is going to really drop dramatically simply because you're replacing the sun with a lot of light.
Many people say our power grid is already so strained. What do you say to that?
When we think about our business, yes, there can be a spotlight on the lighting, but it's how do we optimize plant production, getting greater yield, shorter period of time, more biomass with fewer inputs. Absolutely critical when we think about this. This is not sustainable, what we're doing in the field. How do we think about this and make it apples to apples comparison?
The indoor vertical farming industry is expected to grow to $5 billion this year and more than double that by 2026.
I don't think that controlling agriculture is the best mitigation strategy to mitigate climate change. I think it's mostly about adaptation to the reality of climate change.
Isa joins me now. So with all this new technology, is that going to affect agriculture policy going forward?
It already has. I mean, you look at the 2018 Farm Bill, it created under the USDA the Office of Urban Agriculture and Innovative Production. It also allocated $25 million specifically towards efforts related to urban agriculture and these types of new farming. And when we look at the upcoming Farm Bill in 2023, we're just expecting to see much more of that. Mark Oshima, the co-founder of AeroFarms, who I spoke with, he actually recently testified in Congress talking all about controlled environment agriculture and the important role he believes that plays in creating a more resilient food system in this country. The industry is also expecting to see a big focus on nutrition in that upcoming Farm Bill, which the industry really believes that they can play a role in. Agritecture, the other company I spoke with, telling me that, the nutrient-packed foods, the high-quality foods that they're able to grow in these environments really can play a role in that. However, accessibility is something that I heard a lot about as well while reporting this story. Right now, a box of those leafy greens or microgreens that you saw me try in that video, they're over $3. And that's something that really is not attainable for a lot of families. So how do we have more conversations and legislation that can help make this something that's more accessible to everyone as well?
But it certainly sounds like people are pushing for new and better ways to make our food, to grow our food, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really cool what they're doing.
Yeah, terrific report. Thanks, Issa. Coming up, foster youth advocating for changes in Michigan say they're not getting a quality education, and years of hard work didn't necessarily count towards graduation. That's our backstory tonight. Plus, close calls at a beach in California. Big ones. Sea lions chasing people off their turf. That's next in The Local. NBC covers hundreds of stories each day, and because you couldn't possibly read, watch, or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we like to call The Local. From our Midwest Bureau, a moment of silence this morning in Highland Park, Illinois, marking 1 week since the mass shooting there at a 4th of July parade. Church bells rang 7 times to honor the 7 people who died. More than 40 others were hurt. And from our Western Bureau, officials in Nevada say they found a family secretly living inside a children's museum where they worked. Our Reno affiliate reports a man who was the janitor was arrested and charged with child neglect and endangerment. The janitor's wife was the museum's manager. They've both been fired. Police say they found things like an AK-47, handguns, ammunition, knives, and a taser. The museum's board has apologized, saying they were shocked and saddened and looking into how this happened. Also from our Western Bureau, viral video showing sea lions chasing people in Southern California. It happened at La Jolla Cove in San Diego. The video appears to show some sunbathers coming a bit too close to the sea lions before they charged. No one got hurt. The beach has signs warning visitors to keep a distance from the animals, some people running faster than they've ever run before. It's time now to get to the backstory, our behind-the-scenes look at how a story comes together and how it fits into our bigger picture. Foster youth and advocates say Michigan is failing to give kids in its care a quality education, and that's forcing teens to delay their graduation or just drop out of school in some cases because they're so frustrated with the system. NBC's Aaron Einhorn talked to 10 teens and young adults who've experienced Michigan's foster care system. All of them attended class and completed their schoolwork. When they tried to move from residential facilities to public school, they found out the classes they took didn't necessarily count towards graduation. 23-year-old Kayla Gaucher went through that. She says, I was hurt and irritated because I thought I was doing something and I really wasn't doing anything. Foster care advocates in Michigan say the child welfare system and education officials don't pay enough attention to the instruction facilities are giving. But state officials say they have no way of overseeing the quality of education in all these facilities. Aaron joins me now. Aaron, how did you find this story and the kids to speak to on this issue? Was there anything that surprised you? Was there anything that didn't surprise you, actually?
Yeah, I found out about this story through the advocacy of some really strong, powerful, thoughtful foster youth advocates in Michigan, part of a group called FY Tech advocating for foster youth. That's a youth-led organization, and they discovered that a lot of them had similar problems, that they were sort of comparing notes and saying, yeah, when I got out of facility, I had trouble getting my credits to transfer. And they thought, this is a problem that can be fixed. And they started advocating around it, and they held some public meetings. And I heard about one of those public meetings from somebody who attended it. And I just started talking to youth, and, one led to another, And I kept hearing these stories, and I just found them just really stunning and surprising, and it just seemed like the kind of thing we needed to write about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, foster care kids are already dealing with so many issues. I mean, they get essentially booted out of the system at age 18. It's really tough for them. And, I wonder, obviously, you do a story like this, you've got to check in with state officials. What did they say the problem was here?
Yeah, I was really surprised. I assumed when I went to state officials, they'd say, oh, no, that's not happening. But that's not what they said. Actually, what they said is, well, we're doing our best. It's nothing we can control, because the state has contracts with these facilities. They're state funded, they're state licensed, and the contracts say that the facilities need to be providing an appropriate education. But the definition of appropriate is left up to those facilities. And some of them are doing a better job than others. Some of them are really providing substandard instruction. I talked to youth who said they were taking classes in the 10th grade that were 5th grade work. One of them said kindergarten level work. Really high teacher turnover. We'd have new teachers every 2 weeks, one of them told me. Others said they got good instruction, quality education, but, they got out and it wasn't in their transcript for whatever reason, or it was a class they didn't really need. It was, they took earth science twice, or they thought they were taking 9th grade math and really it was remedial. And then they're told, well, you need to repeat 9th grade. They thought they'd finished 9th grade. They thought they'd finished 10th grade. And then they're told, oh, actually, you got to do those grades again. And some of them found it, you can only imagine how anybody would feel. And so, the dropout rate among foster youth is really high anyway. These are youth who've been through so many difficult things. And then to be told this, at a time when they feel like they're finally, going to graduate from high school, and then it's like, oh, no, actually, you're not. Yeah, when you cover a story like this, and you hear these dramatic stories, and you deal with officials who are surprised to hear how bad it is, did you get the sense that maybe this reporting could move the needle and there might be a change in some policies in Michigan? It does seem like the kind of thing that could be fixed. I sent the story this morning to the governor and the leadership in the House and the leadership in the Senate, really hoping that somebody can, at least take a look at this and figure out if there are solutions that can be implemented. I haven't heard back, but maybe they'll see this and then I'll get that call.
Yeah, well, it certainly looks like they need a fix. Nice reporting, Erin. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for highlighting this issue.
All right, and we will be right back after a quick break. A string of recent shark attacks has led to increased patrols at beaches across the country. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock's been following this.
For those worried about a spate of recent shark attacks, the odds of being killed by lightning, about 1 in 80,000. The odds of being killed by a shark, 1 in 3.8 million. Now, Florida leads the world in unprovoked shark attacks. New York averages about just 1 a decade, but has seen at least 2 attacks, if not 3, in 1 week.
It's the dawn of a new day off the coast of Long Island, where a string of recent shark attacks has led to stepped-up patrols, leaving beachgoers shaken and lifeguards injured.
I'm treading water, and all of a sudden I feel this sharp pain and pressure into my hand.
Zach Gallo was ironically rehearsing a rescue playing a victim some 30 yards offshore at Smith Point when he was bitten. A very similar scenario to what happened to lifeguard John Mullins only days later on Fire Island.
Kind of felt like the teeth were like inside my skin, and when I pulled my foot out, it kind of just felt like a scrape, like a rake going up my foot.
The recent encounters with the feared predators, paired with another possible instance near Jones Beach, have caused officials to crank up oversight, using drones and choppers in an attempt to spot sharks. The U.S. led the world in shark attacks in 2021 with 47. That's up 42% from the year before. Florida, which leads the list by far, just saw a trio of attacks in the last couple weeks, 2 that could have been deadly. Addison Bethea was attacked by a 9-foot shark at Keaton Beach near Tallahassee while on vacation with her family. The 17-year-old had a part of her leg amputated.
You can get to me.
But days ago, she bravely took her first steps, posting on the Facebook page, Fight Like Addison. With a GoFundMe that's already raised almost $70,000 for her medical expenses, Lindsay Bruns is also recovering.
We're out at Sawyer Key on a boat. My wife just got bit by a shark. Her leg is bad.
Her husband frantically calling 911 after this attack in the Florida Keys. The couple's 2 daughters, pictured here 30 minutes before, had just climbed the ladder back onto their boat. Luke Bruns hoisted his wife aboard and tied a tourniquet around her leg.
Are you bringing her in?
I guess so. I don't know what else.
Okay, yeah, drive her in. Tell me the closest spot that you're going to take her to. I'll have an ambulance waiting for you.
Incredibly, Lindsay survived, released from the hospital days ago.
We did mention that shark attacks are up about 42% compared to 2020, which is a pretty significant spike. But if you look at the bigger picture, 5-year averages, it's actually right in line with what we've seen between 2016 and 2020, which is, on average, 72 attacks a year.
Some shocking images there. At least it's rare. Well, that's a wrap for this hour. We'll have more for you here tomorrow. Same time, same place. Coverage picks up right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.